Okay, so we have what's in light, what's in shadow. We're gonna go into this cone. The cone continues in space. It continues around the corner. So I have this very dark color in my shadow area. I'm gonna go into my next one down where it's a slightly lighter, and I'm gonna just hit the edge. Because as atmosphere comes between the object and the distance, I want to move it back into the distance so it loses a little intensity in its color. The value range comes closer together. So I hope you can see that, the way that just lightening that edge made it continue around into space. The area between the light and the shadow, I've got a value that's kind of right in between them. That's how you pull them together. This same edge that I added over here in the cone, I'm going to add to the edge of my cylinder. And it makes it continue around. I'm going to take that same color, which is between the light and the shadow, and blend those edges. I'm going to go into my sphere and do the same thing. The bottom of the sphere has a little bit of reflected light from the base of the box. And there is a cast shadow, which I forgot. I'm going to drop that in. It comes here, comes along the cone, and then it goes right in here. It connects to the shadow on the bottom. There's reflected light that's coming up and hitting this sphere here, which is what allows me to see the edge of that. It's still in shadow, but it's getting a little reflected light. And then as it goes around the top there, it moves into the distance. The darks get a little bit lighter and the lights get a little bit darker. Do the same thing with my light here to get it to continue around. My light here to get it to continue in space. I'm softening this transition. I would say there's a shadow here where the box contacts the ground. We can soften the transitions here. About as simple as we need to get. This cone, I'm doing this transition value in here, which makes it step around from light to mid-tone to shadow. I'm going to drop the background value in. The box that this still life is sitting in is darker in its base tone than the white objects are. So the area that is in light is going to be slightly darker than the white objects that are in light. And we're going to do more of this when we get into color, but that's just a taste. So I'm going to drop in the background here in this mid value. If you find that putting all of these together in one setup is complicated right off the bat, try doing one at a time. Just set up the cone in light and paint it. Set up the box in light and paint it. Set up the sphere in light and paint it. hit a couple of highlights, and then this exercise is done. We have taken a two-dimensional surface and we have used value shapes to create form. Give the illusion of a three-dimensional object. It's a simple, basic exercise, but right now we just want you to see light and shadow in these basic shapes. When we add color to it, and when our shapes get a little bit more complicated, being able to recognize this light and shadow, the shape of the light, the shape of the shadow, it becomes more and more important. Okay, I see very clearly here what's in light and what's in shadow. I'm gonna drop in a couple of highlights, which I'm just using my pure white. When we're actually painting, it's very rare that you ever use pure white. You're always gonna want some color in it. But in this particular exercise, here's a highlight across the top of this box. There's a highlight right here in the middle of the sphere. There's a highlight that runs around the top of this ring. Another piece of it in there. There's a kind of a highlight that runs right down the middle of. Lots of light. It's getting lots of light. Gotta love the light, baby. If I wanted to go in further here, I would soften an edge, possibly. But really all that's important is, can you see what's in light, what's in shadow? Can you create this shape of the light, the shape of the shadow? So we could go in and refine this a little bit if we want to, but that's not what's important. What's important in this exercise is, can you see what's in light and can you see what's in shadow? And can you create that simple shape, whether it's a long rectangular shape or a triangular shape or a moon shape? Can you create that value shape of light or dark and put them together to give volume to the shape?